begin with where we left off last week, and this is in Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 12 onwards. Okay, so Proverbs 10, verse 12 onwards. The verse says this: hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all transgressions. What does it mean? It is talking of a contrast between hatred and love. The point of the matter is here is saying like this, that wherever there is a fire, hatred will pour oil over it. It will keep it up, it will keep it going. But love will pour water over it. It will cover the transgression. And uh, wherever there is hatred, there is also record keeping. You know, where there is strife, there is record keeping. The person who hates, who has hatred in their heart, will keep a record of other people's faults. They will keep a record of it. Why? Because they want to keep it on. They want to keep that fire burning. Sometimes it can be even imaginary. There could probably be no reason to hate, but there could be something that is imagined. Why? They just want to keep the fire going, so that they can continue to hate a person. They can bring up false things, imaginations can come in their heart. But we remember that hatred always brings dishonor to God. As a Christian, we cannot have hatred in our lives and live peacefully. What's the cure for it? 1 Corinthians chapter 13. How many times should I read it? As many times it takes till hatred doesn't go out of my life. Till hatred doesn't go out of my life. 1 Corinthians 13 is the cure for this part. Hatred stirring up strife. When there is hatred, and people don't admit that there is hate inside, but they will keep doing things to keep the fire going. They will keep saying things, they will keep giving hints, they will keep saying, small little, bringing up the past. Why? Keep the fire going. They want to keep the fire going. But what does love do? Love covers. What does hatred do? Hatred stirs up, but forgets to look into the mirror. But love covers all sin. Love covers, Somebody wrote like this. It says, love covers the sins of others. Or you can also say this way: love covers the sins of the one who loves. And this is interesting. Love covers the sins of one who loves, which means it overlooks faults. It overlooks the small transgression. In that sense, it quickly forgives. It quickly forgets. This is Genesis 45, verses 5 and 8, where Joseph quickly forgot, quickly forgave, didn't keep a record of all the wrong that had happened to him. He just didn't. Why? Because love covers. Love covers, he did not expose his brother's faults. Why? Because love covers, And I'm not saying that we hide people's sins. Of course, there is a place where confrontation needs to happen. Of course, there is a place where uh, sin has to be exposed. Of course, those issues do come, but it is not like everything is spoken about openly. It is not an open revealing of sin, but where there is a chance of a problem happening, where there is a chance of a division taking place, where there is a chance of those things happening, then the sin is exposed. In that sense, it's opened up. The reason why it is opened up is because it has proof. But initially, it is all love. It is love first. Love is given up first. And love, what does love do? Always covers. Love always covers. And I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand. What I'm not saying that people can do what they want and continue, and then we say, no, we love you. That would be hypocrisy. That would be artificial love. That's not real love. When Jesus loved people, but when it came to a point where it was going to cause division, it was going to cause problem, he confronted. So love will also confront, but love, instead of we say confront, will care front. Care front means it cares about the person they are confronting. That is why it confronts. It's not confronting only because for the sake of confronting. It is confronting because it cares about the person. So there is a care fronting. And should the care fronting happen? It can happen sometimes, but it is not the usual way. Because why? Love will oversee. Love will overlook. Uh, we got to be big in our hearts. It's a heart issue, because love is always a heart issue. It's like hatred is a heart issue, so is also love a heart issue. And when a person hates, and the strife will follow, When a person loves, peace will follow. And sometimes love will cause a division in the sense like between right and wrong. But love always covers that, And who needs this? Like if you think about that parable in Matthew chapter 7, Matthew 18, forgiving 70 times 7. Is it easy? No, but get used to it. If it's not easy, then make it easy. It'll bring healing to your own soul. You know, when a person begins to forgive, they get healed. We said that in the message 3 weeks ago, that who gets released? The person forgiving gets released. And that's the whole idea behind this, that this is what love does. It does not keep a record. It does not keep going after it and keep reminding the person about the faults and the failures. But what does love do? It covers. Who needs this? Who needs this kind of love? All of us. We all need it. We all need it. And it's the standard remains Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Forgive as Christ forgave. Forgive as Christ forgave. Verse 13, on the lips of the discerning, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks understanding. The contrast here is David's son Solomon. What did he do? He had discernment. Wisdom was found. Why? Because he had knowledge, he had understanding. But Solomon's son Rehoboam is the one which is part B. Rod is for the back of the one who lacks understanding. Rehoboam was given the option, reduce the taxes, but he says, no, I will increase the taxes. He did not learn anything. He did not have understanding. But in Solomon, it was the wisdom was found in him. And what happened when wisdom was found in Solomon? The world came to hear him, 1 Kings chapter 3. His word of what Solomon's wisdom was went far and wide, and people came to hear him. When a person has wisdom, how do you know a person has wisdom? It will be found on their lips. When they speak, you will know. That's the idea. How do you know that? How do you? So what is Solomon trying to say when he's writing this? He's saying, learn to seek it and seek it early. Learn to seek it and seek it early. But he says, but the rod is for the back of him who lacks understanding. If there is no knowledge gained, there is no wisdom, there is no understanding, then it's appointed to punishment. Now, the word here, rod, is actually derived from the word which means it used to be a part of a tree from where they would make a shepherd's staff or a weapon. So it was quite sturdy, it was quite strong. And the idea behind it was there is someone who can learn but refuses to learn. So they are made to learn. Okay, it's like the child, in the school. They can learn, but sometimes the child gets cranky and they say, no, I don't want to study. And then what happens is you're forced to study. And sometimes you're disciplined to study. That's the idea here. That's what he is saying, that the value of wisdom is so great. The value of the knowledge of God is so great that one should learn it. And if there is a resistance not wanting to learn it, then enforce it. Why? Because then there'll be understanding. There will be understanding. Now, understand that there is an aspect of discipline and an aspect of chastisement from God. But the heart behind that discipline or chastisement, or some people will call it punishment from God, is love. God does it out of love, not to teach us a lesson. He teaches us, he chastises us, or he has this punishment coming in or discipline coming in out of love, not out of any other thing, not out of any other motivation. So the one who can learn but refuses to learn should be taught. It does not mean that someone is like doesn't want to learn, then that we run after them. No, when we find someone, okay, who wants to learn, then give them everything. Teach them whatever you can. In our ministry, in the sense when we grew up, we were taught this in the sense, like in ABD class, Pastor Stevens once mentioned, whatever you know, teach it to everyone. Don't hold back anything. Everything just teach it to everyone. Share it. Let other people grasp it, get it, grow. But don't hold back teaching anything. Don't hold back certain things. Why people hold back is because they want to control. because they want to show that they know more and there is something always better than someone to surprise. No, just teach everything. Just just give up everything. Why? Because then the person has understanding, they have wisdom. Who does not need it? Every day of our lives we need it. There is something happening, and if we don't have the wisdom to deal with the situations of life, then we are going to be found wanting. We are the ones who will lose the peace, you know. In verse 14, he goes on further and says, wise men store up knowledge. It's continuing there. But with the mouth of the foolish, ruin is at hand. What's he saying? He's saying that there is storing up of knowledge, in the sense, this is this. How do you store up knowledge? When you're reading the word, listening to the word, you could memorize it. You could take notes in services, in classes. You can store it up digitally, and many of you do that, and that is good because you can go back, refer to it many times. Like, I was thinking of yesterday afternoon in the rap session, lord, what amazing portions were being spoken, and I thought, man, let me just take notes here, because I want to remember what is being said. Because what happens is, this is something for us. This is something for us. This is what the scripture says: wise men and women store up knowledge, because sooner or later in the future you're going to need it. You're going to need it. And so you take down notes, you write it down, you store it up, you memorize it, you read it again and again in whatever way you can. But then it says, but with the mouth of the foolish, ruin is at hand. Which means, what is he saying? He's saying, where there is wisdom, it can be applied in life, you know. But where there is none, where there is no storing up, then destruction is nearby. Because the point is this: if a situation comes up and I don't have biblical answers to it, or I have it but I don't remember it, I've not stored it up, I've not thought about it, I did not pay attention to it, then more than often my response to what the situation is will not be biblical, and that could harm me in the future. you know like sometimes people taking decisions without even consulting God. That's dangerous. Who are they going to marry without even consulting God? Dangerous. Listening and knowing who they should be and which they should not be, and yet choosing to go ahead with what they want to do. If there is one hoarding, or one gathering, or one hoarding and collecting that is allowed in the scripture, is a hoarding of the word. Like, take in as much as you can. That kind of hoarding is allowed. That kind of wisdom is allowed. Take in. It's all yours. Take in as much as you can. You know, and this is why, because we need it. You know, no one else is going to do that. No one else is going to do that for us. Like, think about it. How close was Pharaoh when Moses was speaking that he could have accepted God? How close was he? Very close. There were the words of Moses that God was speaking to Moses. There was the miracles happening, the 10 plagues going on. He had option upon option upon option, but he refused it. It led to his destruction. It led to his destruction. This is how the world is too, that the gospel is made available to them. But what happens is, ruin is at hand. Why? Because they reject it. Verse 15: the rich man's wealth is his fortress, the ruin of the poor is their poverty. Now, this is true on the surface. This is outwardly, this can happen, and it does happen. Because for the rich person, they feel that the money can protect them from all evil. It can be used for influence, it can be used for a good report, it can be used for all those things. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12. And it can consider them and make them strong and have influence and buy them all the comforts. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 23. But what is absent is God. And sometimes, because the trust in riches is so much, that man himself becomes his God. They think they can do anything. The poor have no such influence. Now we can see that today, that this is a truth, that sometimes being poor leads to their destruction. We saw it in the pandemic. The ones who were poor, the ones who had to walk back to their villages and all those things happening, they died. What was there? They had no resources. They had nothing. They could go to a certain distance and never make it. It led to their death, you know, because they did not have resources. And this can happen. But if you look at on the other side and think of this verse as a spiritual richness and spiritually, you know, being poor in the spirit, I can have the comforts of the world. A person can have a comforts of the world and not be poor in spirit, not be hungry for God, not having desiring for God. They will remain in that sense physically fit, physically well-being. But God is saying something else. In James chapter 3, verse 5, he says, the poor are rich in faith. They are the heirs of the kingdom. They are the heirs of the kingdom, you know. Jesus, Luke chapter 2, 7 to 12 is an example of that. Like carpenter's son, right? But great grace was upon him. Favor of God was upon him, you know. And whether we are rich, poor, spiritually, non-spiritual, however it may be, in every aspect, grace is needed. Because whenever life throws up anything it has, we have to depend upon the grace of God. You know, we have to depend upon the grace of God. A great verse that can be understood along with this is 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 18. You know, that's a great verse to go along with this. Verse 16. The wages of righteousness is life. The income of the wicked is punishment. Now, the wages, okay? It says in the wages of the righteous is life. The word wages actually should be the word labor. The labor of the righteous is life. The income of the wicked is punishment. Now, big difference, right? And the idea here is that this is speaking about our calling, that this is how we are. We are to co-labor with Christ. The righteous will co-labor with Christ and they will find life, spiritual life, God's life. Why? Because remember in Jesus saying in, I think in Luke chapter 19, occupy till I come. Like be occupied with my work till I come. Co-labor with him, because first God works in us. Then God works with us. And then God works through us. Right? He works in us, with us, and then through us. Then we work for him, depending upon him. So this is the idea here, is that there is the righteous in life. What is the life? It's God's life in us. We experience the fullness of his life when we depend upon God. That is our labor, the labor of the righteous. And it is not heavy. We don't get tired doing it, you know. We don't get tired doing it. And I was thinking of the music team, Sandeep, and all these guys, like whole weekend. And then Sunday, they are like continuously practicing and singing and worshiping. And then they're not tired. And I'm like, okay, can you guys take a break? Like, you know, okay, what can we do? No, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Like, what is that labor? Because God has worked in, God has worked with, and now they are depending upon God to do the work. So they find life, you know, they find life. And this is considering ourselves that we need help from God. And so when we serve him, we serve depending upon him. This is Romans chapter 8, verse 13, and Philippians chapter 2, 12 and 13. Those are the verses that we can refer to, you know. But then he says, the income of the wicked is punishment. What do you mean income? You know, this is someone who is sowing to the flesh, who is doing not led by the spirit, but doing led by their own works. This is Romans 6:23. Wages of sin is death. You know, wages of sin, the work of the flesh. Galatians chapter 6, 7 and 8. What you sow, you shall reap. You know, if you sow in the flesh, you will reap in the flesh. That's the problem there. This is what he's saying. It's if you're doing something depending upon yourself, and thinking like, I can do this and this is my work and I am handling it, then there is your income is coming. You know, your income is coming. It brings no fruit. Verse 17. He he is on the path of life who heeds instruction, but he who forsakes reproof goes astray. Okay. Now, instruction. He who finds it, he who finds what Christ says and keeps it will have fruit. But it's not enough to receive instruction. More important is to keep it, to do it. Okay. To do as what the scripture says. To refuse, the word here basically is one who forsakes, is basically meaning the one who becomes deaf towards instruction. Like there could be God speaking, there's a word in the church being said, but they turn a deaf eye, the ear. They say, no, 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 we don't want to hear. Like we don't want this instruction. We are happy with it the way we are. That is the error. That's the error, and that's the result of pride. And what is he saying? He goes astray. They go on their own way. They find their own way. They go on their own way, and then sometimes they will lead some other people also astray because they have found their own way, and that's the problem. In verse 18, he who conceals hatred has lying lips, and he who and he who spreads slander is a fool. Okay, he who spreads slander is a fool. Now we see this. This is the history of the scripture. He who conceals hatred has lying lips. Who gets this? It's all through the Bible. Cain, there is Cain, there is Cain with Abel, there is Saul with David, there is Joab with Abner. What's happening? They have hatred in their heart. But what are their words? One would say brother, Saul would say my son, Joab would say my friend, Judas would say my master. In that sense, like they would say, oh Jesus. But what was deep inside of them? Lying lips. Why? Hatred was they were concealing the hatred and lying through their lips. This is all through the scripture. And what does it lead to? He spreads slander is a fool. What is slander? Accusing someone, ruining someone's reputation by accusing them without proof. Like you run them down, you bring them down by speaking false, by accusing falsely, and to bring them down. That's the idea of slander. And the point of the matter is what happens is it's the fool who does it. It's the fool who does it. But in the world today, this has become like normal now. To slander someone is like, oh, okay, this one does it, so that one does it, and that one does it, and this one does it. It's all over the place. But that's foolishness. That's foolishness. Like, do you really mean what you are saying? Can your word be trusted? In earlier days, everything was on word of mouth. If someone said, yes, I will do it, then it was like, final, it'll happen. But is it happening today? No, people say something and do something else. And then they have excuses for it. And if someone accuses them and tells them, hey, listen, you did not do it right, then slander the person, bring them down. And the scripture is saying, the one who spreads slander is what? A fool. They have no hope. Very careful. Verse 20, the tongue of the righteous is as choice silver. Oh, sorry. Where there are many words, 19. Where there are many words, transgression is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise. Idea here, listening is better than speaking. That's the whole idea. Listening is better than speaking. And someone said, right, that's why God gave us one mouth and 2 ears. Because the chances of falling into sin while speaking a lot are greater than the chances of while listening. So that is why it is that it is better to be a listener, better to be a listener in the multitude of words. Where does this come from? And this comes from the flesh, the old sin nature. The old sin nature loves to brag. The old sin nature loves to speak lies. The old sin nature loves to draw away from God. And this can affect the believer. People who talk a lot have usually not a lot of knowledge, but they are empty on the inside. But they do not want to show it. So they will say a lot to conceal that they are empty on the inside. By thinking, by saying a lot, by speaking a lot, they will be considered wise. But that's not the way. That doesn't help. You need doctrine on the inside. We need doctrine on the inside, And what does the flesh love to do? The flesh loves to praise its own self. It loves to talk about its own self. When someone talks and they're only talking about themselves, it's the flesh. It's the old sin nature that is actually talking. If they're submitted to it, that is why they're only talking about self. They're only praising self. No one else is good except them. And that is this is the problem. There's a multitude of words. There is a multitude, many words. And what happens there? Transgression is unavoidable. Sooner or later, you're going to say something which will cause trouble. That's why Proverbs 27:2 says, let someone else's mouth praise you, not your own. Let someone else's mouth praise you and not your own. But he who restrains his lips is what? Wise. This is Job chapter 13, verse 5, Ecclesiastes 5:13, and James 1:19. Okay. Job 13:5, Ecclesiastes 5:13, and James 1:19. Okay. I think there's a commentator who wrote that where there is, like, we have to be very careful of the things we say, because the sins of the tongue are no less than the nails that pierce the hands and feet of the Savior. That's a strong statement. I was reading, I was like, ooh, like this is an old school writer and Puritan, they all, it's like truth, 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 truth. And so he wrote this and he was like, wow, sins of the tongue are nothing less than the nails that pierce the hands and the feet of the Savior. Like, whoa, okay. But then what is the solution? Prayer. Prayer is the solution, prayer is the solution. This is Psalms 141, verse 3. It says, set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth and keep the door of my lips. Psalm 141, verse 3. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth and keep the door of my lips. Okay. Verse 20 and 21. The tongue of the righteous is as choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth a little. The lips of the righteous feeds many, but fools die for the lack of understanding. So if you read 20 and 21 together, it says the tongue of the righteous is as choice silver, and the lips of the righteous feed many. Why is it as choice silver? Because it talks about God. Why are the words feeding many? Why are the lips of the righteous feeding many? Because they are leading people to salvation. They are encouraging. This is a picture of a pastor in the church. This is what he is supposed to do. This is what is the work of this is what it is. It says here, the tongue of the righteous, choice silver. Silver in the Bible always speaks of redemption. This is what Christ has done, set us free. So in the pulpit, there has to be the freedom, that people experience freedom when they hear the word of God. Like, it sets them free from the burdens. It sets them free from pain, from anxiety, from all those things, That's what it is. And then it says, the lips of the righteous feed many, which means there is encouragement, there is teaching, there is prayer, there is evangelism, there is encouragement, In John chapter 6, verse, remember Jesus feeding. What was he doing? What was he doing? He was encouraging, he was giving thanks to God. But look at the contrast there. The wicked, what does it say? The heart of the wicked is worth a little, and fools die for the lack of understanding. Why is the heart of the wicked little? They have a lot of treasure, but it's very little, because there is nothing for anyone else. It's only for themselves. So the more they live for themselves, the heart gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The capacity reduces because it's coming down to only one person, you. And that's what it is, that there is this idea which leads to self-destruction. Here is a simple thing, that there can be a gospel presented, that God gospel can be shared, and maybe someone hears it many times, yet they reject it. But who loses in the end? They lose in the end. They are left with nothing when they could have had everything in heaven. And that's the whole picture here. That when we speak the words, our lips are righteous, of the righteous feed many. You know how valuable your encouragement could be for someone? You know how valuable your prayer could be for someone. You know how valuable a thank you can be to someone. You know how, a few words and just praying for someone over the phone or personally can, change their whole day or a week. Why? We are righteous. Righteousness of Christ is in us. And when these lips dispense the righteousness of Christ, then they are feeding people. How many people in this world, maybe in the church, how many are, yesterday in the Hindi church, there was, we were having a rap session, and one of the people in the rap session in the Hindi church said, we shouldn't come, we should come with clean hearts and pure hearts to church. We should not carry our burdens to the church. So then I said, then where do we go with the burdens? That's the only, we don't have any other place to take the burdens to. We take them to God and we take them to church, and that's where God takes it away. That's where the Lord heals, and that's where the Lord ministers. The church is a place of the encouragement. The church is a place where the righteous lives. Someone's word, someone's encouragement, someone's prayer just takes the burden away, just lifts us up. Okay. Verse 22. It is a blessing of the Lord that makes one rich. He adds no sorrow to it. I mean, highlight this verse, make a circle around it, mark it. Don't forget this verse. One one commentator wrote, "This is God giving you gold without any guilt." That's a good way to put it in today's terms. Gold without guilt. He adds no sorrow to it. Psalms 127, right? It says, unless the Lord builds the house, and those who build that house build it in vain. This can be about a house. This can be about a church. This can be about a ministry. This can be about our life. Unless the Lord does it, we all will struggle, and we do it in vain, because we will never reach the desired end. When God does it, it's like, smooth. It's just like you don't even sense it. It just happens. It just happens, and he adds no sorrow to it. Think about Lot. He got a lot. He went for a lot. What did he get? A lot of sorrow, a lot of bitterness, right? Think of Ahab. He wants the crown, he wants the vineyard, but he's discontent. He dies. He has nothing. Gehazi, Haman, rich young ruler, Luke chapter 18, sell everything and come. No, no, that's a problem there. Verse 23. Okay. Doing wickedness is a sport to a fool, and so is wisdom to a man of understanding. Okay. Wisdom is like a sport to a fool. What does he mean, sport to a fool? It means to the wicked, what happens is they try to outdo each other. For them, doing evil is like a competition. If someone does bad, then I'm going to double more bad. I'm going to do worse more. I'm going to be even more wicked. You know, and so is the wisdom to a man of understanding, which means what? The man who is wise sees that there is uh, evil and walks away from there, doesn't stay there. It's not a sport for him. It's not something that he enjoys. He just goes away from there. Verse 24. When the wicked fears, what the wicked fears will come upon him, and the desire of the righteous will be granted. You know, it's a great verse. What is it saying? It's saying this: the wicked knows that something is not right, and a day of accountability is coming. And suddenly it will come upon them. It will come upon them. They know it. Outwardly, they may be smiling. Inwardly, they are fearful. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, 65 to 67. But the desire of the righteous will be granted. What's the desire of the righteous? It could be the promises of God. By faith and in patience, Hebrews chapter 6, we inherit the promise of God. God's abundance, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, growing in faith, growing in grace, seeing prayers answered, being confident, answering the call of God. This is the desire of the righteous. It is going to be answered. And there is no fear there. There is joy there. When a whirlwind passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous has an everlasting foundation. This is Hosea chapter 13, verse 3. The wicked, one day, just gone. All their hopes, all the opportunities that they had, it's over. They don't have any more chances. Sennacherib, Sennacherib surrounds Jerusalem. There's a war. They are not allowing Israel. Israel is suffering inside. But an angel of the Lord comes in the night, and 185,000 are destroyed like in a moment. They are gone. But the righteous have an everlasting foundation, which means nothing moves them. Nothing moves them. You know. Then it says, like vinegar is to the teeth. Okay. Like vinegar is to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is a lazy man to those who send him. What does it mean? Have you ever had smoke in your eyes? Have you touched anything spicy and then touched your eyes? The idea is there is constant irritation, a lot of irritation, or there is a lot of disappointment. There's an expectation, but it ends in disappointment. You know, and so this is the idea is that someone who is lazy, the one who sends the lazy man to do the work, will sooner or later get irritated. They'll get irritated. Why? Because either of their laziness or they have no concern. They're not concerned. They are reactive. Like if you tell them, they will do it, but they're not proactive. You have told them, but they'll do it. So the sense is that the lazy person irritates others more than they irritate himself. So this is the we'll read that about that later on. This is the sluggard, the slothful person. Verse 27, the fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened. What is the fear of the Lord? Again, that theme has come. One who fears and honors God. One who fears and honors God. Habits will be removed. I've heard so many people say that they used to drink, but the moment they gave their life to Christ, it was gone in a day. They could stop smoking in a day. They had been smoking for years, and then it was gone in one day. Some people had anxiety, and it was gone in a day. What is this? The fear of the Lord, fearing, honoring God, giving Him. That's where the blessing comes from. But the years of the wicked will be shortened. The one who is wicked has to pay a price, and sometimes their life is shortened. Right? The life is shortened. That's the whole idea. Verse 28, the hope of the righteous will be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. The righteous have a glorious future. You and I have a glorious future. We have heaven, gladness in eternity forever. But the expectation of the wicked, by their sacrifices, their idol worship, their giving of money, they think that they will have a better life after their life, but they will be disappointed. Their expectation of the wicked will what? Perish, because they will end up in hell. They have never received Christ. So in that sense, all that expectation that by giving something they have a better next life, and it will all go. It will not remain. Verse 29. The way of the Lord is strength for the upright, but destruction will come to the workers of iniquity. This is Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. When we are weak, we ask God for strength, and God gives us strength to walk in His ways. When you walk in God's ways, you will walk, you will run, you will fly, and you will not be tired. But anyone who works iniquity, destruction will come to their effort. Sooner or later, that destruction will come. Like the devil thought he's destroying Jesus Christ by putting him on the cross. But sooner or later, we know what happened. We know his end. That's the idea. Verse 30, the righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not inhabit the earth. In the millennium, those who are saved will walk in, will enter, will rule. Christians will rule. Faithful Christians will rule. The righteous will never be removed. They will always be with God because of God's righteousness in them. They have a great future, something that they can look forward to. It is secure, it is immovable, it's for eternity. But the wicked will not inhabit the earth. They will be in the lake of fire. They will be in the lake of fire. Verse 31, the mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut out. As I said, wisdom is revealed through the lips. What's in the heart will come out through the mouth. This is Matthew 12:34. Out of the treasures of your heart, the mouth speaks. The perverse tongue will be cut out. One who is twisting it, misusing, God will make sure that they are no longer able to use it. And verse 32, the lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse. So God's righteous have people, you and me, We have discernment in what we say. There are times when we should say something, but the Spirit says, don't say it. We are quiet. There are times in a certain situation that we have to say something and we say it. There are times when we want to say something, but there is a inner prompting saying, don't speak. That's the discernment. We have it. God gives it to people who believe in Him. But the mouth of the wicked is perverse, which means they are skilled, they are experts in saying what people want to hear. And they are talented in speaking crooked things, twisting things. And what does it say? But their mouth is perverse. What does it reveal? There is no love of God in their heart. And that's why the tongue speaks wrong things. Okay. So we'll close here. That's the chapter 10. We will begin with chapter 11 tomorrow. Then in the meantime, what we have said, what we have discussed, if you have any comment, if you would like to share something, now would be the time. Those on YouTube, if you're watching, then you can type it in the live chat and we'll try and answer them. Okay. So go ahead. You can unmute and we can take in questions if there are any questions and we can answer them now. Or if you have anything to share, please do. Add. Feel free to add.
Hello, Pastor. As you mentioned, that if you receive knowledge, then like you should be willing to share it. So I just have a question, basically, like, what if someone has knowledge, like and he refuses to share it, like with a new believer and all? So I just want a comment from you. Like, do you think this can be one of the major reasons, like of a strife or a pride, in that person, and cause a self-destruction in a person or a destruction in a church community? If that particular person who has knowledge refuses to share it with a new believer or a person who wants guidance in something. So I just want to comment on that.
Well, if you're talking in terms of guidance, maybe there could be a case where a person is not qualified to give guidance. That would be a different issue. So that is not what we are talking about. Okay. When we are talking about sharing, what we are basically trying to say is that the idea of sharing comes with, okay, here is a simple thing. I know the good news and I'm commanded to share it, but I don't share it. Right. And when that happens, then who is the loser? In that sense, I won't talk about profit gaining or losing, but I'm talking about enrichment in our personal spiritual life. Who is the one who loses? And so that's the idea. It's like, it's not just about sharing, but it could be when someone is looking for a counsel or a guidance, and let's say the person is not qualified to do that, then of course you should not say. And the best thing would be to guide to someone they know. uh, if a question is asked and I do not have the answer to it, then I better read and study about it and then give the answer, rather than saying something to satisfy someone and say, okay, this is what it is, but it could be the wrong thing. So no harm in that. But what the point of the matter is that generously doing it means this: I could, or you could, or any one of us could have that capacity, but willingly we are not wanting to do it. We are holding it back, or we are trying to, uh, you know, in whatever sense that is. That would not be good. That's what I'm trying to say. If I have something that I can help someone and I do not help them knowingly, that's the issue. That's what it is talking about. So
Thank you.
Pastor, in fact, I was just reminded when you spoke of verse 14 and how important it is to store knowledge,
yeah,
and also wisdom continues by giving. I was reminded of yesterday's message where you spoke of Pastor Stevens when he came from a small place like Maine, and his passion for God's word was so deep. He used to keep on memorizing. And
yeah,
I believe that storing, wisdom and knowledge, and then is from what he gained by storing is what he kept giving. And today we can see the outcome of what he stored and
yeah.
gave all over the world, which has gone
Amen.
out. And I feel that was such a perfect example, of how giving can lead to building up, nations, and not only your own self, but churches and nations all over. Like,
Yeah, that's a great illustration. I was thinking when you say this, I'm just reminded, like, even when you watch ABD today, maybe it is taught in 1988, but it is applicable to when we hear it, isn't it?
So true, Pastor.
Isn't it?
ABDs can
You know
never be
why?
missed out.
Yeah, you know why that happens? Oh, don't worry, I'm just trying to gather some material. It's lying in the Andheri office. Once I get those ABDs, then we'll start putting it up on YouTube so we can watch. But the idea is here is where, you know why? Is because he was preaching the word. It was God's word that he was giving. That is why life came out. See, why would God entrust a country preacher in that sense, who was not even a preacher, to have such a big ministry? Allowed God, would God allow it? Because of his dependence upon God and God's word. That was the only thing. And he did not hold it back. In some of his messages I was hearing recently, it says he would travel an hour and a half to go and hear a preacher who was well known so that he could learn. Even when he was pastoring, he would drive an hour and a half to go receive the word. And then he would come back, and whatever he could study, he would go and like, imagine, after Sunday service, I have difficulty getting Monday evening, Monday morning in that sense. But his class would be Monday morning, 7 o'clock. He would be up studying. He never stopped. He was once in a generation. But when it comes to us, whatever we can, whatever your hand finds to do, do it. You know, but store, because what will bring the change is the word of God, right? Other things, good advice is needed, practical advice is needed, logic is needed, but beyond all those things is what the Holy Spirit says to us through the word. That will bring the relief, that will bring the comfort, right?
Amen. Thank you.
We have a silent class today. Everyone has discernment. Right. I love this verse. It's the blessing of the Lord that makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. Like, you can look at it in any term. You can look at spiritually, you can look at it in a relationship, you know, marriage, parenting, financially, spiritually, ministry wise, home, anything. When it is blessed by God, then he attaches no sorrow to it. Yeah. Lot would leave Abraham and his tents and go and want a city that looked like Eden. But what's happening there? You know, what's happening there? He's got so much trouble. When the angels come and they are with Lot, and the men of the city come out, and imagine the wickedness in the city. And Lot is saying, take my daughters. Wow, wow, take my daughters. And the angels strike the people blind, and they are still searching for the men. That's how wicked they were. But what did he leave? He left Abraham and the tents and the herds, and went to a city, became a judge at the gate of the city. There was no blessing of the Lord there. It ended up in ruin. There was no blessing. Like in the book of Peter, First Peter, it says Lot is righteous Lot, which means he was a believer. Can it happen to a believer? That they find their own way, they do their own things, and think that that place outside of God's will is safe for them. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know, it's unbelievable sometimes how decisions are taken. Yeah. Okay. Monday evening. How are we doing Monday evening? Beginning of the week. All right. I think It's Monday evening. So let's pray. Father, we thank you and bless all that we have heard minister to our hearts. And we want to think about this verse, God. Love covers all transgressions. May we reveal the love of Jesus. Rather than pointing faults, we would be covering transgressions. Not saying covering sin so that people can successfully sin, but faults, overlooking the fault and in being interested in the person's future. Thank you for this verse, Lord. The blessing of the Lord. He adds no sorrow to it. Thank you that you have blessed us. And if there are areas in our life where we do not experience this blessing, maybe we are falling short or we are in sin, or there are areas that we are not doing well, we ask you, God, to speak to us specifically, minister to us, that we would experience your blessing in those areas, God, and have no sorrow attached to it. We love you. We worship you. Bless each one of our lives and give us a great evening and a great day ahead tomorrow. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.